Hey, I'm Dr. Deb. Welcome to this podcast. It is Thursday night, and that is the reason why we are having this podcast now. Tonight's talk is all about feeling disconnected. And I want to get into that a little bit with you. But first, I just want to make sure that if you're out there, you feel free to chat in. Some people may feel uncomfortable because they don't want their name on the program, and that's okay if you want. There's a way of using a name that's not yours. You can make an account and just make up a name or something. But if you want to chat in, please feel free. Okay, so let's get into it. Why does a person feel disconnected, and what should they do about it? So I'm going to start with the what they should not do about it, because what I did, I was very curious to know what's online, what's out there. Oh gosh, the suggestions were terrible. But I think that an awful lot of what passes for therapy out there doesn't go very deep. That's all I can say. I think people feel mistakenly problems aren't so bad. Actually, the problems can be very bad. So let's just start. Date night. They say go on date night. Now, there are people for whom date night is very good. It's important. Here's the people for whom it works. You are connected. You're already connected. You just haven't had much time to talk. So that's good. Maybe someone is going through something and you want to support each other. Okay, that's nice. But if you are in a place where one person is angry, or there has been verbal abuse, hurtful language, coldness, nasty remarks, those things are not going to go away because you went out on date night. What if you do get along and you're not only disconnected, but you get along, but you haven't had time to talk, and there's a leaky roof that you need to talk about? Or little Johnny's third grade teacher is too hard on him, and someone's got to talk to the teacher. These are not topics for date night. But if your family is overwhelmed with problems, then going on something that was supposed to be date night and isn't, because of those problems, isn't going to work either. What if one person has a list of complaints against the other person and they never get a chance to talk about it? They theoretically get along, they're disconnected. So one person decides to level all the complaints. No, I don't think so. Date night is not for everybody, and it is absolutely not a solution for disconnection. It is a solution for people who have worked too hard and need to take a break and can stick to taking that break so that they can enjoy talking to each other, not when they're disconnected or because they're disconnected, but they simply haven't had a chance to talk. Let me define disconnected, because maybe that sounds confusing. Disconnected means that even when you do talk, you don't feel like you're on the same page. You feel a tension. You feel something is bothering you or the other person. There is some kind of a wall between you. That's what disconnected is. Disconnected is a lot more than we haven't had a chance to talk. Just so that's how I see it, just so you know why date night would just not work. Now, another very strange recommendation that I saw was have sex. It's there. You can Google it. I'm not quite sure why they said that. Maybe they said it for people who are not really disconnected, but they simply, again, haven't had a chance to have fun together. Okay, sex should be fun for both people. It should be enjoyable. It should feel good. It should be a connection that is physical because you already have the emotional. However, if you're truly disconnected, which means there's some kind of a wall between you, maybe it's plexiglass, you can see through it, but there's a wall. You're not on the same page. There's tension, there's discomfort. What's going to happen in the bedroom? First of all, if they feel that level of estrangement from each other emotionally, it's going to be awfully hard to connect physically. The only way that you can have sex under that circumstance is if you don't actually believe that you're having sex with the person that you're married to. I'm sorry to say it, but there are people, many people, who imagine someone else because they literally can't have sex with this person they're disconnected from. Just to take it a step further, what organ in your body is the most sexual? It's your brain. Not what's down here. Proof. Here's the proof. The porn industry is a multi-billion-dollar industry. And what is porn? You are looking at this, your computer screen. For God's sakes, there is nothing sexy about a computer screen. But the sexy part's right here, your imagination. You see a person of the opposite sex and you think, oh, if I was with that person. Well, listen, that's all here. Congratulate yourself. You're doing it for you. And there are many people who don't even need porn because they can do it for themselves right here, all by their little lonesome. So, what is sex when you're disconnected? I'd say you're introducing a third party into the bedroom who does not belong there. Now, in addition to that, even if you're not doing all that and you know you're with each other and you really want to try to overcome the lack of connection and you're trying to reach out, what's going to happen? Well, a man can have trouble having an erection because he's so uncomfortable with the fakeness of the situation, because he knows he feels this wall between you. He can't do it. That's embarrassing. For the woman, it can be worse than embarrassing because she might pretend to have an orgasm so as to make him feel good. And I've heard lots of stories like that over my many years. And that's very bad because in her effort to be kind, what she's doing is betraying herself. She's not being who she is, what she really feels. Now, that said, if someone asks you how you feel, you go to the grocery store and they go, hi, how are you? You're not going to say, oh, today I have a migraine. You're just not going to, I just got out of surgery. You're not going to tell people how you really feel when they're strangers, and you might not tell your loved ones either, which gets to the next topic, because that was tell them. So we'll get there in a minute. The point is that some people fake the orgasm so that they won't hurt their spouse's feelings. And it may be a very kind thing to do once in a while, but it is not going to get over the disconnection. How could faking and betraying your own honesty bring you closer? How could that be? It's impossible. Can't happen. Furthermore, there are a couple of other reasons why sex could be a real problem. Supposing someone's violent. You know, I read a case, I'll tell you, I think it was Lenore Walker's case decades ago, but I could be wrong. That decades ago when I was doing my research for my dissertation, a man had a gun cabinet because he liked to hunt. But when he wanted his wife to obey him, he pointed. That's all he did. He pointed to the gun cabinet. Now, that is a threat. It is a nonverbal threat, but it is a threat as much as if he said, I'll beat you up. I'll shoot you. So if he wants sex with her and they are disconnected because he has a tendency to be violent, or he has at least made these kinds of threats, this is an extreme level of disconnection. Sex isn't going to go very well for those people either. And finally, I'll just take it down to the most mild case. There's no abuse at all. There's no verbal or physical or any other kind of abuse in that family. There's just a verbal disconnection. People just have that plexiglass in front of them and they've never expressed their feelings, but each one knows, do you really think they're going to be doing well in bed? They're going to feel weird. They're going to feel uncomfortable. Now, that said, sometimes it can work. I don't know which times. My thought is probably when you're imagining somebody else, but maybe not. Maybe if you're really not too disconnected and you just haven't been together in a long time, it could work. I don't know. The third case that I saw when I was Googling what do other people suggest, coaches, counselors, whoever, was open it up and talk about it. Tell your partner how you feel. Now, on the surface, this makes perfect sense because true intimacy, which overcomes the disconnection, is being vulnerable, sharing your feelings. However, what if the other person is shocked out of their mind? What if they did not realize that you felt disconnected because they don't? You feel the plexiglass dividing you. They don't, for whatever reason. They don't feel it. Can you imagine the shock to their system? How hurtful that is? That would feel like rejection. Now you're going to say, well, wait a minute. I know it would. But if I'm not honest, what do we do? I'll get to that. But I was talking before about how sometimes you would think talking about it can help. Only in certain cases. Talking about it will help with people who really love each other and want to get that feeling back. They had it once. They knew they had it when they had it, and it felt good on both sides, and they want to get it back. And very key, they have enough self energy to handle hearing the other person say, I feel disconnected. And the reason I'm throwing the self energy out once again is because this is what enables you to do two things at once: hearing your own parts telling you how they feel, and hearing your partner tell you how they feel, he or she. In other words, in self energy, you have this open-hearted ability to take in what the other person says without becoming reactive, without putting up your defenses, without that feeling of, oh my God. See? Now, if you don't know what I'm talking about, because this is the first time you've tuned into this podcast, that is fine. Go back, listen to the others. It will be an amazing experience for you. Go through all of them, because I talk in detail about self-energy throughout, and starting at the beginning, I get into it quite deeply, all the components of self-energy. But it is a general speaking, open-hearted receptiveness to the other person without ever needing, oh, there's a plane. It shouldn't be this time of year, but anyway, sorry. Windows are closed, but it's still noisy. Without ever getting triggered. So that's self-energy. If you can hear it, and you know your partner is like you, if they told you you could hear it, yes, then you can talk about it. That is the only condition under which you can talk successfully. Now, how do you get to self-energy, and how do you know you're in self-energy? Well, you know, if you get triggered, then you might have been, but you sure don't have staying power with it. So you need to practice. Go to my website, drdeb.com, and go right to that very first page, scroll down, get on my email list, and get a meditation, 12 minutes or something, on getting into self-energy. Anyway, back to my topic. Another thing you could theoretically know about without going through finding out that you can't handle it is if the other person's had trauma, they probably can't handle it. Any trauma, doesn't matter. There was a car crash. It doesn't have to be earth-shattering. Any trauma can, not will, can cause a reaction of people to what you say. For example, here's one. You say something and the other person hears something completely different from what you said. Now, how is that possible? They're just English words. No. When I was in graduate school, one of the things that we did, it was cute. The professor had a bunch of sentences, and depending where you put the comma, the whole meaning of the sentence changed. For example, he walks into a bar and eats, shoots, and leaves. Right. Eats, shoots, and leaves. Well, if he eats, shoots, and leaves, he's some kind of an animal who eats, shoots, and leaves. I don't even know. That eats, shoots, and leaves. If, on the other hand, he eats, comma, and then shoots, comma, and leaves, oh, he actually had a gun. See? So body language, the way you say things, the look on your face, your history of conversations in the past, all can contribute to a person not really hearing what you said, but what they think you meant. So you, as the speaker, would definitely not want to have a conversation with a person who has suffered trauma that has never been addressed or hasn't been addressed sufficiently so that they don't do that. But if you're married to someone who misinterprets what you say and mean, there's a reason for it. And it's not necessarily something you did. It could be that your body language resembles somebody else that triggered them. And this happens all the time. Another problem is that if a person has poor self-esteem, they can react very, very badly to this kind of a message, including becoming abusive and throwing it back on you. All of these are possible. So that is why talking is a very bad idea for someone to put out on a website without having a clue who is going to read it. If my husband and I had a conversation, we could maintain, at least at one point, at the end he was not all there, unfortunately, but we could maintain enough self-energy to be able to have that kind of conversation. Okay, so now I'm not going to say why is there a disconnection, because by telling you what you should do about it, you're going to find out the answer to why it became a disconnection in the first place. I'm giving you 5 steps to take to deal with it correctly, and not the ones that I just shot down. 1, look inside yourself. Why do I feel disconnected? Do I feel disconnected because of something that is in me? Or did my spouse do something that's disconnecting? You know, I remember when my daughter, who's been married many years now, but when she was dating, she dated a guy who she did not marry, very briefly, who she described to me as looking up to her so much for her to give him a lead or an idea, like where should we go? Well, where do you want to go? You know, very nice, it seems, but after a while, you feel a burden by all this niceness that he wasn't able to take any initiatives about anything. So not long ago, I think it was about a year ago, she told me she ran into this guy with his actual wife. He eventually married. And the person he married was the type of, she knew the person, the type of woman that liked to give direction. So she was happy giving the direction, and the man was happy receiving it, and they were very happy with each other, meaning there was no problem. If he was being bossed around by her, he was thrilled to get it. My daughter didn't want to be that person, and she did not marry him. She married somebody else. But the point is, the fact that someone acts in a certain way, it doesn't mean you should blame them and point a finger at them for their way of treating you, which has caused you to be feeling disconnected. What you now have to ask yourself is, why does that bother me? What is it about that behavior? Like, once you narrow down to what is turning you off and disconnecting you, why is that behavior bothering me? I'm allergic to milk. I loved milk for years and years and years and years. I loved it. Can't handle it now. Is there something wrong with milk? No, it's me. My body can't digest it. Too bad. It's me. So when you feel disconnected, you have to ask yourself, this is number one, what is causing that? What is it that is making me feel that way? Understand, it's no one's fault. It's not the milk's fault, and it's not my fault. I didn't do anything wrong. If I can't handle milk, I can't handle ice cream. Oh, well. Oh, well. I know there are little pills you can take for that. I bought them. They're like $14 for this little bottle. I may use it, I may not. I could do without the ice cream. It won't kill me. But then you can ask yourself, what would connected look like? Because for that guy that my daughter didn't marry, connected would be his loving wife giving him all kinds of instructions. He'd feel very good. And she would too, because that's what she wants. See? For my daughter, connected would be very independent. Two very strong-minded, independent people who can talk and respect each other in the process. That's who she married. So, okay. Why would that thing be good for you? Those are all part of looking inside. Question 2. What did you do to contribute to the problem? Because if you feel disconnected, you may have done something to contribute to the problem. So, in the case of a lady being very nice and not wanting to say that something bothered her, in a sense, she's contributing to the problem because you're not solving the problem. But I said you shouldn't talk. So let's get into what to do about that. When you get to a place where you've looked inside and you know that you have contributed to the problem, the next step, this is step 3, is to ask yourself, have I been patient, kind, giving, respectful, fair, honest, appreciative, calm? If you can honestly say you really don't think you've contributed because you've been all of that, except maybe you haven't admitted how disconnected you were because you knew that would not go over well. Step 4 is understand your spouse. Because if you've done everything right and there's a problem with them, you have to really understand them. Now, how do you go about understanding them? I don't think it's by asking questions. I remember when I was a little girl, I was in 6th, 7th, 8th grade. My mother would ask me too many questions. Why didn't you walk home with those girls, Sally and Martha? I'll make up the names. What happened in school? Why did you not blah, 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 whatever? I couldn't stand it. I wished my mother had a job so that she wouldn't be home when I got home, because I did not want to be asked all those questions. That said, the questions maybe are why I became a therapist. I don't know, because I always had to answer all those questions. But the point is, it's not going to happen that a person who is troubled in some way can answer the questions. So asking the questions is not the way to find out the reasons for your husband's or wife's behavior and what they may have contributed to the problem. So what do? The answer is observation. You notice their behavior, and you may try different approaches to see if you can get the best out of them without betraying yourself. So if you feel disconnected and you know they work very, very hard and they come home frazzled and there was politics at the office, you may find that a nice calming dinner that you prepared, even though you work hard too, but you wanted to do it out of love, and a chance to just relax, maybe listen to music, will calm your spouse down so that you might be able to connect. I'm making up an example. But number 4 is understand the reasons behind your spouse's disconnection. If you have done all the things that you could do by looking deeper in yourself and your own behaviors. Now, if you come up with Zippo, you don't understand, you can't ask questions, you can't open a dialogue because that won't work, you can't be vulnerable, the next answer has to be therapy. But how do you get your spouse into therapy? One thing you can do is you can say, I don't feel happy. I would like to be able to solve this problem. I don't feel happy. What problem? I didn't know you had a problem. Well, I have a problem and I think that I need your help. I'm not sure. Would you come to therapy with me? See, now this is a way of not sounding like you're blaming your partner. You're taking it on yourself. I have a problem. I'm not happy. I don't know why. You're great. You don't say I feel disconnected. You're fine. You're a good person, but for some reason I'm not happy. Would you come to therapy to help fill in blanks where I can't seem to explain myself well enough to the therapist and they're at a loss, so you'll be there. Another alternative is, are you happy? Because sometimes the spouse who's also been trying to protect you by not telling you what they think isn't happy either. And then it's easy. We should go to therapy. However, the most important thing that I want you to take away from this is don't be angry at your spouse because you feel you did everything you could possibly do that was good and right, and they hurt you, and you're disconnected because of them. Don't go there because your spouse didn't realize what they were doing was not working. Like, if that man had married my daughter, she wouldn't be happy with him, and it really wasn't his fault, right? That's his personality, and it's not hers, and it's not a fit. Can't be angry at someone who behaves in a way that they didn't even realize was not working or no good, or they didn't know it was wrong, or they didn't know what else to do, or they have a trauma background, and then the world is upside down completely. And maybe they saw that behavior growing up. You know, one of the questions I ask new people when they first come to see me is, what did you learn from your parents about getting along? And most of them didn't. So how can they suddenly miraculously know now? They don't. So bringing up the problem in order to have the solution of going to therapy when all other solutions are not going to work has to be done in a non-blaming way. And the best way to get there is to be in self energy, because it is non-blaming. It is accepting what is without judgment. So if anybody has last questions, please go ahead and let me know what they are. I would appreciate that. Otherwise, I will say good night. Have a wonderful evening and great week. Take care now.